So, gents, last week was a wild episode. You know, we were talking about some of the stuff going on in the market, some of the stuff that you've been seeing, Greg, as far as double ending and some of that chaos. And we got some very interesting feedback and comments and people interacting with the video last week on YouTube. It's clearly not an anomaly. You know, it seems to be happening quite frequently. And I just, you know, we'll bring it up and we'll go over the comment, but I think it's worth noting that, you know, in any industry, there's going to be outliers and there's going to be things that happen that are, you know, unethical and so on. But that's with every industry, right? I mean, that's not everyone. And I don't want people to be nervous about getting into the, you know, home buying process or anything because of these stories. But you know, the stuff always comes out. And should I read this out?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
No, go ahead, David. What were you going to say?
No, go for it. I was just going to say that, you know, this gentleman that posted, he, you know, first time home buyer, which is especially, you know, upsetting, I guess, if you will, on that he's gone through this experience. But anyways, go for it, Paul. Read it through.
So it says, same tactics seem to be used by agents in Ontario and Quebec. It says, the Ontario agent I was dealing with intentionally submitted my bid late as he was upset I was not increasing my offer by at least $50,000 above asking. He claimed there were many bidders. In the end, it was just one other offer which won and an offer amount just $5,000 above asking. Disappointed as I could have only afforded $10,000 above asking, and I could have won. The second scenario was months later with a Quebec agent who told me decisively on the phone that he would not represent me unless I offered at least $40,000 above asking because there were allegedly 20 other bids received. He then said he'll give me a call back after speaking with the selling agent. He called me back and it was high pressure as he claimed he had appointments He claimed he had appointments, so he needed to submit my offer 2 hours in advance of the deadline. I nervously said, okay. Literally half an hour later, I got a call saying the offer was accepted. I felt rushed and rattled as the guy was a bully. I felt something was very wrong and walked away. The guy left a voicemail threatening to sue me. My mortgage broker actually said that what I experienced was unacceptable. I'm so turned off as a first-time home buyer, as this occurred in 2019 and 2020, and now prices are truly bonkers.
That's a horrible
end quote. End quote. Yeah.
That's a horrible experience. Like, why would you ever want to work with any realtor after that?
I think that goes though to number one, easy solution, call Mr. Gregory Campbell, you know, ethics through the roof. But truly, you know, I think and I know Greg, you say it all the time, of interview who you're going to work with. Interview of, you know, I've heard you say it before to clients and on this, you know, interview 2-3 realtors to get a feel of whether you get along with them, what their ethics are like, their approach to business. And I think that's vitally important. And, you know, unfortunately, this gentleman had, you know, 2 situations that were extremely unfortunate. It's really a shame to hear.
These guys, these agents that are doing this are going to be left in the dust when things change. Like, I don't know what they're going to do, because they're not going to have people who are going to be ready to even, like, clearly there's people that they're pressuring into doing that and it's working for them, which is terrible. And then, you know, what do they do when the market changes and people are throwing money around like that?
You know, I think it also speaks to working with realtors, you know, a professional that does this day in and day out, and not somebody that's doing 1 to 5 transactions a year that is desperate for that business, because those are the people that are going to cut corners, that are going to pressure you. And that pressure comes from them being in a fully commissioned business that are desperate for that income. And I feel that, you know, and on the brokering side, we have part-time mortgage agents that there's a lot of banks and brokers that won't take them on because they're, you know, those people that aren't doing volume or doing it part-time are the ones that are cutting corners or, you know, doing something, you know, that are more prone to fraudulent documents or things like that. So I think that kind of goes to interviewing who you're working with and working with somebody that does this on a full-time basis and at a proper level.
Back.
I agree.
Sorry, I almost died there. Oh, shit. You guys still hear me okay?
Yep.
That just coffee just went down the wrong way. I mean, what can I say?
Wondering what happened to you.
Greg, just to, you know, this is something we kind of breached. Wow. Something we touched on before getting on air. I'm just off the rails right now. Something we touched on before going on air. I just wanted to, we've been hearing a lot of questions from clients recently, just asking us about agents and literally exactly that, like efficacy. Should we be working with an agent? Should we be looking on our own? I think there's a lot of misconceptions too, that first-time buyers think that they're going to be paying you an absorbent fee just to actually work with you. So I feel like it might be worthwhile just, from a very high level, like just starting from the beginning, like what is the difference between a buying and selling realtor, and what does the process look like for you? Like if client says, hey, we're a little nervous, we're thinking about getting into the market, like what's kind of that conversation look like, and how do you start them down that road, as opposed to these other leeches of the market,
Well, I mean, the step for me is, I kind of guide them through the process of how it works. Whenever I meet somebody, they're a first timer, what I do is I first off take all the agreements that they'll have to sign, whether immediately or eventually. And we have all the legalese in regular kind of human terms. So I send it to all the buyers or the sellers if they're new to it, and I make sure that they review it. Although of course they don't do it immediately. They usually wait until you see a few properties, and then they say, "What's the next step?" And I say, "Well, did you read the documents?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "We're gonna go over it." I'm like, "But read the documents." Alternatively, sometimes depending on who it is and their capacity for fear or whatever or knowledge, I'll have what my colleague Nick Crouch will call a buyer intake call, and you'll go over the documents step by step on that first call, so that by the time they're ready to go, like they know exactly what they're getting into. Same thing on the seller side. I always talk about, backtrack a bit here, into your comment about, double ending or representation. If I have a house for sale, I will never agree to work with anyone coming in to buy it that calls me directly. I'll refer them to a colleague. And we're definitely we don't do any commission reductions or anything like that. It's straight off. Like if I have a property for sale, I have one coming up now. And I explained this to the sellers the other day. If anyone calls me directly and they say they want to work with me, they don't work with buyer agents, I say, well, then you're going to have to find a buyer agent, because I will not work with you ethically. I don't do that. Usually that it sorts it out pretty quick. I'll refer them to a colleague if they don't have someone else that they want to work with. And on the buying side, if anyone asks about paying, I always tell them, I say, no, you guys, you're good to go. The seller will pay me out of the total commission sale of the house. And, I think a lot of buyers know that at this point with all the information that's out there. But, and with the buyers, I say, when they want to go shopping, I'm like, absolutely not until you talk to a broker. If you want to talk to one of my guys, great. If you have somebody else, get in touch with them. And once you're approved, give me their contact and I'll talk to them personally so that I know. I don't move until somebody's pre-approved.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this on the show before. I just want to touch on that double ending, because I think, people probably don't know. And I would assume we're in the industry, so obviously we talk about this day in and day out, but I think the general public, if you're listing your home or if you're buying, you don't understand what the obligations are of that real estate agent that's representing the sellers, right? So if you see a home that you like and you call the real estate agent that's listed on that listing. If you're on realtor.ca and you're just browsing and you see a home you like and you call the realtor that's listed there, their obligation is to represent the best interest of the sellers. So they can, what's the term, Greg? Advise you? Or there's like a term.
Yeah. Like, so if at one point in time, I would work with that, and you'd sign what's called a customer service agreement, as opposed to a representation agreement. Mm-hmm. So if I have a seller representation agreement, it means like I have the property for sale. Someone would come in and they would want to offer on the home, you go through the steps and they really want to do that with you. You sign a customer service agreement, which just is an agreement stating that you will do what they tell you to do and nothing more than that. You will say the house is listed at this price. I'll submit the offer for you. What would you like to submit it at? And that's the end of it. And then, my obligations to the seller. So, but I don't even go there because, I don't like doing it because, in the past I found I had a couple scenarios where even though in the end it worked out, I felt that the sellers were still not as comfortable as they would have been if someone else was representing the buyer. So that's why I don't do it anymore.